this everybody you think you're expecting? Or?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Tim Fountain from CAI Technologies, and he's here to share a little bit about the GIS mapping. I've got a sign-up sheet going around. If you could sign and indicate if you're a resident or what order of commission you're on, or if you're a town employee, that would be terrific. And I will turn the time over to Tim.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming this morning. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Tim Fountain. I'm the Vice President of CAI Technologies. We throw a lot of acronyms around, especially in GIS, Geographic Information System. CAI is Cartographic Associates Incorporated. So that's the legal name of our company. About 5 years or 7 years ago, we rebranded because we do so much more than just parcel mapping. And that's where we originally founded, as a parcel mapping company, Cartographic Associates. So before I get into what I'm prepared to show you folks, I'd like to understand who I'm talking to and who's in the room. So could we start in this corner here and just go kind of snake through the chairs and see who we are?
Ray Morgan, resident.
Okay.
Rested in town of Woodside, got property, so just seeing how
Great.
stay on top of things, be involved.
Great.
Grace Jacobson,
Conservation. Yeah.
Jean Pillow, Conservation, and I work for the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District, and we use these maps all the time.
Okay. Good morning. Good.
Bill Brower, zoning board of appeals.
Hi, Joe Palulik, planning and zoning, professional engineer and resident.
Lori Bergen, work for the town of Woodstock Assessor's Office.
Okay. Yeah.
Joshua Nolan, I work at Woodstock Building Associates, assistant project manager.
Woodstock Building Associates?
Yes.
So is that a business in town?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've met you. Good morning again, yeah.
Tracy Giro's land use.
Dan Malo, Wetlands and Zoning Officer.
Pamela Spade, Conservation Commission.
Okay.
John Davis, I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeals and also on the board of the New Roxbury Land Trust.
Oh.
We look at the mapping a lot.
Great, sure, yeah, I can imagine. And then
Rachel Adams, town employee, also conservation, beautification, and open space committees. Leah LaChapelle, WBCA.
okay. Good, well thank you. It seems like we have quite a good spectrum of folks here this morning. So just a little bit about what we're going to talk about this morning. So our company was hired to perform two services. One is we did an update of your parcel data, the tax map data, the parcel data. I want to stress that our company did not build the original data. It was supplied to us through your COG, I believe. We were hired for one round of updating through the assessor's office. New deeds, subdivision splits, boundary line adjustments, updated the data. And the second service, which we're really going to get into and talk about this morning, is the online mapping platform. The name of the platform is Access GIS. Now, CAI Technologies, we're a GIS consulting firm. So we provide cities, towns, and counties GIS services. So whether that's developing GIS data or layers of information, maintaining it, or providing solutions, like Access GIS is a solution, we provide that for hundreds of local and regional governments in the US. We're not an engineering firm. We're not an aerial mapping firm. We provide GIS services. Okay, so I want to make sure you folks know who we are and what we do. And what we don't do is important. So what I'm planning on is I just want to show you just a couple of slides that help sort of guide my thoughts in speaking, and then we're going to get right in and do a live demo of the application. But before I do that, I'm just interested, has everyone in the room been on the site yet? Been on the mapping site? Okay.
Pretty friendly.
For the most. Briefly, okay. All right. And again, that application, we're going to talk about that application, and let's just take the measure tools, for example. So I can click a point and move my mouse and measure the distance from one point to another. That's application functionality. Okay, that's a function. Or print, I want to print a map, that's a function. That has nothing to do with the data. Okay, the data that's in the table of contents, the layers, that is gathered through a variety of resources which CAI didn't build all that data. So that's a very, very important point. It's very easy to start talking about an application and the functionality and quickly turn the conversation to data without people even realizing it. Okay? So you're going to hear me over and over again say, okay, now you're talking about the data. What we built and what we serve and support is the application. You all can bring your data forward, but that's going to be from a variety of resources, developed a variety of different ways. The currency of it might be different. The accuracy of, the spatial accuracy of it, whether it's collected with sub-meter GPS or survey grade GPS, those are all variations in data, and I'm here this morning to talk primarily about functionality, how to print a map, how to use the measure tool, how to turn on and off a layer. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, very easy. I do it all the time too, but it's very easy to start talking about data when you're talking about functionality.
That point. Very interested in functionality.
Sure.
So where did the data come from? So you
Okay.
said lots of sources, so.
This is great, yeah. So each individual layer will have to, there could be a variety of different resources. I can speak only because I haven't worked for Woodstock for several years. I can speak very briefly about the parcel data and what's on the tax maps, okay? But how, let's just say there could be a conservation land layer or a flood zone layer that's developed from FEMA or DEEP. You'll have to research the metadata to find out what they use to develop that data. And we do try to credit where the data came from, but sometimes we don't know. It just came from the town.
The data was there, you're just showing the way.
Yeah, we build a tool to make it easy to use the data. But, you know, to say the data was there, so the town gave us the parcel data through NECOG. I was involved in that string of communication. But then when we built the site, for sites in Connecticut, we go out to a variety of warehouse, data sources in the state, and we know kind of what to get, what our clients want. But during that process, somebody could have came forward and said, hey, here's a feature class for our hydrants. We don't know how it was built or who built it, but we want it up there. So we'll serve it, okay? So each one of those, just get this closing thought out, each one of the answers to your question is really, we have to look at that layer. We can't say, okay, all the data on this site came from X, okay?
Don't want to get ahead. How
No.
about the future? How
Yeah.
do you do it weekly, monthly, and is it
Do what?
updates?
It depends on the data. Depends on the data.
So you receive data as it comes in?
Yeah.
Do you wait till the end of the month to receive data?
So the parcel data right now, the property lines, when I say parcel data, tax map data, I'm referring to the property lines, any dimensions and annotation, road names, water names, features that would be on the tax maps. Our agreement with the community right now is to update that one time annually, current to October 1, because that's the assessment year. Now that could change, but and that workflow is quite simple, where the assessor's office will gather up any splits, mergers, recorded subdivisions, any of those changes, as well as miscellaneous corrections and changes. Send that up to us, say, okay guys, you have all the data current to October 1, finalize the update. We update the data, deliver updated maps or PDFs, and refresh the data on the website. Now I want to stick with your question on updating data, and let's talk about the ownership information. which I'm going to show you where you go to get that. The town has a tool that they can update that whenever they want. Every day, every week, every month. They just have to go through a process of exporting that from the assessment database, double-clicking a tool, and refreshing it up on the website. And that's real important to support people searching for properties or running an abutters query. You know, we want to try to avoid, hey, why is Tim's name still on that property? He sold that 6 months ago. You know, that's what we're trying to avoid. But, you know, it's different in every community because the assessor in that community may say, well, I want Tim's name on that until next October 1. He's the owner of record as of October 1st. So it really varies. I hope I'm giving you a clear enough answer, and the summary is it really depends, okay? But that's the truth, yeah.
There's one more question. Is there a town hall point person who would know the answer to all these questions? Like it's, you know, like.
Yeah, and unfortunately she's in the room, and yeah, and her name is Emily, yes.
Oh, okay.
And I say unfortunately only because when you're not in the room, we put all kinds of other responsibilities on you. But when you're in the room, we have to say, yes, she's our point. So as of right now, our main point of contact for support, for staff engagement, we call it, and for renewals is all goes through the assessor's office and Emily. Is that all right? Yes. All right. Okay. So any other just general questions before I get into my slides? And I will warn you, I could probably talk about this till 6 tonight. You know, I could just go on and on and on. I mean, I'm going to try to keep this down to an hour and a half, like I said. But there's a lot here. There's a lot going on. And I don't have a whole lot of history where you guys were a year, 2, 3 years ago. You can help me fill that in. But I'm focused on what you have now and how you got to where you are now, at least when I've showed up on the scene. Okay. So I want to show you a couple slides that hopefully illustrate just some very, very basic principles of the application. I'm looking at my laptop screen, obviously. I'm going to count on you guys to tell me if you're not seeing something up there. So this first slide is what I would consider probably the most important slide. Go ahead.
Could you switch to slideshow so we see the text bigger
It might also be called presentation mode.
for presentation?
How about if I just click that button there? Does that help?
Yes.
All right. Every square inch matters in screen real estate, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, so you see my wheel up there, right? I look at this slide and I picture a wheel. I see in the center, or the hub, okay, is what's called Axis GIS. Axis GIS, that's the Earth spinning on an axis. That's our brand name for it. But really, if you look at Axis GIS as the hub or the center of a wheel, it is designed to be the center point of the mapping for the community, okay? So what we're trying to avoid is in the assessor's office, you have a silo or a set of data that differs, say, in public works or in land use or in parks and rec or in public safety. We want to try to avoid different departments using different data sets, even though each department likely has its own authoritative database management system. We'll use assessing again, your CAMA. Vision or? Vision. Okay, so that's the name of the computer aided mass appraisal system, CAMA, you'll hear me say. That's the ownership land records data. So each department likely has a system that they're maintaining authoritative data, and we look for opportunities for those systems to push data in, like the vision systems, pushing in who owns the property, what's the address, how many bedrooms, how many baths, what's the book and page, what was the sale date. So that authoritative information is being pushed into the Axis GIS through these little arrows here, okay, into the map and linked to the parcels, okay? So if we have, let's say, a calls for service database of every call that the fire department went on, we can take that database and push that into the map so I could see things like incident mapping or response time mapping or certain activities taking place during a certain period of time. So Access GIS is serving as that center point, okay, where data is coming in, and we try to avoid, I know I sound like a broken record, but the fire department using ownership and parcel data that's 2 years out of date. We want them, everyone using the same current information. Notice my arrows in this diagram are also come from Access and push out. And that's because it's very common today with web services and the internet that we can serve out a map from Access GIS so that these other department systems that can consume a map are looking at the same map data that everyone else in the town is looking at. So this fundamental concept of tearing down silos, having a hub called Access GIS that can serve as a central point to either consume data from other systems or push mapping data out. Does that make sense? We're not at all trying to replace those systems. We're not trying to replace vision in assessing, the calls for service database in fire, the permit management system in building or wherever it's managed here. We don't replace those, we integrate with those. And it's very common, as is the case in Woodstock, it all starts with parcels and CAMA. So it all starts with the property data and the ownership information.
Those feeds back to the using systems,
Yeah.
the assessor, the fire department, your examples. Are those pushes from your system on a schedule, or are they pulls from the using application on some schedule or as needed, or is it both?
All of that, yeah. So just a quick example, we often push data to permit management systems that gets refreshed once a week, like every Sunday night. Emily's data will be synced back up and pushed out to the permit management system. But there are other cases, like usually an asset management system where folks are out working on manholes and outfalls, and so that system's updated every night. It really depends on what you want, but I like the way you're looking at this. So we're pushing data from Access out to those systems. Could be a flood zone layer, could be a land use layer, could be a parcel layer. And those systems are pushing data in to Access. So I can build a map that says, show me all the open permits. Show me all the electrical permits. Because I'm pulling data in.
So with that in mind, me as a resident committee, I have limited access. Right? So
Yeah.
you put, like, you have the public safety, or have so much access to this map.
Yeah.
Each individual, each department have certain, well, they, within the committee to them, or the department
Yeah.
have access. But me as a resident, I go and see the map, I don't have access to it.
Yeah, you're a public user.
Public.
Right, and we have internal or staff users, and we can manage users. So users are put in a role, okay, and those roles are put in groups, and those groups have access to certain information, certain functionality too. So we have the capability to set up access for people to edit data too. There's an example, right? But let's say you don't need to edit data, but you want to see the incident mapping, but that's not appropriate for the public to see. You'd log in as a firefighter. Okay? And this kind of segue right into my next slide. So does this kind of make sense, what we're trying to accomplish here? Again, it all starts with parcels. And how it grows from one community to another, it really varies. I mean, what we're doing in Mansfield isn't necessarily what we're doing in Woodstock. You have different needs, different priorities, different financial support. So, you know, I'm very, very keen on, okay, just because we do it there doesn't mean we do it here. It really is driven by the needs. Okay, So this is, I only got 2 more slides left, or 1 more, bear with me. So this is typically how Access GIS is implemented in a community. So this upper right corner here, this is what we have today. Now I say public engagement, but really it's anybody, okay? Anyone that meets these requirements. You gotta have a computer or a mobile device. Phone, tablet, laptop, workstation. Gotta be able to get to the internet. You gotta have power, battery or power. Those 3 things are requirements. If you meet those 3 requirements, you'll have access to the system. So it's really a system to engage public, staff, anyone that has a question about a map or where something is, a location-based question. And again, those requirements for internet, power, and a device are all that needs to be met anywhere 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in your dining room, in your kitchen, wherever. Go ahead.
Does the browser matter? Chrome versus Firefox versus Bing versus whatever?
Yes, it needs to be a current supported browser. So I don't care. So it is cross-browser compatible. So if you come with Microsoft Edge, or you come with Chrome, or you come with, we'll support those. But if you come with Internet Explorer 5.4, we're not gonna help you out. We're gonna say upgrade your machine. But if it's a current supported browser, we'll support you. Okay. And that's another good point. Our support isn't just for town employees, it's for you as well. So we get a call from, or an email from a taxpayer or a realtor or someone over in London. Yeah, we'll help them out, Okay. This upper left corner of this slide is intended to illustrate the common systems that we integrate with. Now, I don't know if you folks recognize any of these brands here, but I'll just go through a few of them. So Cartograph is asset management. So this is very common that our users that are managing water, sewer, and drainage systems, they have that data in a GIS in their system that can be shared or integrated. They want Emily's parcel data. They want the ownership data. And you want to know, where's that hydrant valve? Different camera systems. You see Vision up here. Okay, these are common. This is a common camera. Nearmap, Eagle View, those are imagery providers. So whether if the town goes out and purchases custom aerial imagery, we can process that and consume it if it meets certain specifications for things like base maps or oblique imagery. That's imagery looking on an angle, not straight down. So a few of these up here are also document management. We have permit management. We support single sign-on with Google and Facebook. So these are not the only systems, but these are really common systems that once a community goes beyond just sharing this for public engagement, that we typically integrate with. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time in this session talking about the bottom of my slide here, but I just wanted to introduce, there are certain staff-only capabilities. So town employees with their credentials can log in and have access to specific tools that the public doesn't have access to. Okay, a perfect example of that is I want to download my zoning layer as a shapefile. A shapefile is a GIS layer. So Emily would have to log in with her username and password to be able to get to that tool to download a shapefile. The public can't do that. Our thinking there is it's your data, you should have control over who gets it. That's just one example of a handful of staff-only tools. And then this lower right, this is for more advanced users that want to integrate a platform called ArcGIS Online, which is from a company named ESRI. There's another acronym, Environmental Systems Research Institute. That's what ESRI, E-S-R-I, stands for. They're the sort of 10,000-pound gorilla in GIS technology that we're a partner with. They're a big worldwide company that provides the technology that we build our solutions on. You may have heard of ArcGIS, ArcView, ArcMap. All those ArcGIS products come from Esri. As a matter of fact, the technology that's serving these maps through our application is a product called ArcServer. And that integration allows us to deploy editing capabilities and much more advanced field and mobile capabilities through our platform. I don't know if we have any technical people in the room, but I'll get buried fast if we do. So I have this slide to help me along. So these are all the technologies that are at work when you're using AccessGIS. So AccessGIS is running in what's called the Amazon Web Services Cloud, okay? And that cloud, typically in most of the times on the East Coast in Virginia, but it does move around a bit. It's a series of virtual machines that our staff connects to remotely, we have staff all over the country, and they connect to those servers through Amazon and publish the data. Publish the map data. The application is responsive, okay? So not only cross-browser compatible, like we said earlier, but responsive. So if I go to this application on my mobile phone or my tablet, it recognizes that and resizes and fits the interface appropriately to my device. So in other words, you're not going to see a desktop mapping solution trying to fit or squeeze into a mobile device. It's a pretty bad experience trying to use it, especially a guy with fat fingers like me. So cross-browser, cross-compatible, that's what this graphic is intended to show. We run in a Windows environment. We support single sign-on, like I said. Amazon, Microsoft SQL Server, ArcGIS Online's integrated in, and this is a JavaScript application. So it's not using the most current version of the JavaScript API, but it uses what are called node services. Okay. So those are I'm about a half hour in. Those are my quick little slides. I'm not a big slide guy, but those help keep me grounded to what I want to share. Any questions on just some basics? Go ahead.
Yeah, it is basic.
No, go ahead.
So who has control over access? So you say, there's the public access, so on, so on, so on. So is that the assessor's office has control over who has access to the data?
Yeah, so if another town employee wants to have access to your staff only side of the application, that request comes through Emily. Yep.
And is this system, is it able to see anything with parcel plans such as well situation, septic situation, sewer pipes running? We have a community sewer down centrally, just where the access points are to the different portions for input into the sewage. Would that be something that would be accessible by this?
The application has the capability to serve all that,
You don't know.
but we don't have the data
Well, you
for
don't
that.
have the data.
Yeah. All right. But the data may be out there, and I would say, hey, Emily, give me those data layers. A lot of times, too, with sewer and septic, we scan and link. That's one of our staff-only tools. You don't have it, but it's capable, where you can click on a parcel and upload a PDF or a TIFF. So you see the as-built for that, or you see the septic plan, or you can create a point. Yeah, so my mind is just going all over the place of how we support users like you're describing that want access to septic information or drainage information or sewer information. It's a variety of ways, whether it's through layers of information, a table of information that we link, or documents. A very common example is in a public water system, there's usually a gate valve to shut off the service going into the basement, they typically use tie cards they pull a tie off of that corner and off of that corner and locate where that is. Well, you could go out and GPS that, stand on the gate, or you can scan and link the tie card. Either one is acceptable. Access GIS can handle serving that data out, but you have to have the data first to put it in. Okay?
You start adding layers like that, is there any internal, I'll say, checks, in your example of linking into the tie card? If that showed that the gate valve for number 5, such and such a street,
Sure.
appears to be on number 7, such and such a street's lot, is there anything that's going to say, whoops, this doesn't look right?
Well, let's say
Because there's
she
a
is the
mistake in
superintendent.
There's a mistake in the survey, or
Yeah.
some piece has been surveyed and the neighbor hasn't been. It's very likely that there'll be a difference of opinion about where the property line is.
Sure. Oh, yeah. And this makes it very easy to see that difference of opinion of where that is. So Access GIS doesn't have the capability of saying what's right and what's wrong. We rely on the user to say, hey, delete that tie card, put this one up there, that one's wrong. Or change that data, the sewer line or the water line doesn't go there, it goes here. Am I answering your question?
So there's some process that notices that that doesn't sound right and flags up.
The process is a human.
So a person. Okay.
Yeah. The application's not going to know. I could put a water line going right through your house.
Okay.
Yeah. But the application doesn't know that. The only thing the application won't let me do is connect a water line to a sewer line. There is some intelligence there. Yeah, that would be a problem, wouldn't it? But you bring up a good point. Again, here we are talking about data, right? So the data, the information you get out of this is only as good as the data.
Not necessarily smart data.
No, it's not smart data. It's as smart as whoever collected it. Yeah, yeah. And property lines are interesting because, you can get into a situation where you have two surveys that abut one another, and this is the opinion of this surveyor, and this is the, we don't get into boundary law of resolving that. We rely on the assessor's office to say, okay, this is the update, go with this plan. Or don't do that update, let's let it get resolved first, Yeah, I often say that Access GIS does a great job of bringing to attention these data issues, doesn't resolve them. The users resolve them. The people resolve them. Okay, do you want to get in and start looking around, jumping around at Access? Thought I had one up. Okay. So what I'm going to show you now is your application. I did have it up. It was right there. Okay. Your app. This is Access GIS. This is live. This isn't a canned demo. Those other 4 slides, that's as far as they can keep me locked up. This is live. What I'm going to do, everything I'm going to do, the public user can do. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There you go. Now, how's that responsive look and feel? Good? All right. There you go. I haven't figured out how to make it print money yet, but it does a really good job of answering questions. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully this is when everyone said, yeah, I've been on it before. Hopefully you've seen this before. Okay. So before I get in and start clicking around and doing a demo, I always like to just introduce the interface, okay? Because when we built this, there were some core requirements that we wanted to adhere to. So I, in my mind, break this application up into quadrants, okay? Aligned vertically, north to south, and horizontally, east to west. So this upper left quadrant, this is where users primarily interact with the application to ask questions. And we're going to go through this. every time I have a tool active, it turns yellow. So I have my search dialog active, I have my identify tool active. See how they're yellow? Hopefully they're showing up yellow behind me, okay? And every tool has a tooltip. If I just, or a mouse over, we call it sometimes. You hold your mouse over it and a little tooltip comes up. Every time I use a tool, I also have the ability to collapse it or slide it in, which is really important in a mobile device, okay? So if I want to search, I click on search. If I want to run a butters, I click a butters, and if I want to get into my table of contents, I click that. It's as simple as that. And notice these layers are yellow. And we'll talk about each one of these functions as we go through, but I can just slide that in. Up here, just contact information, link to your town website, Emily's email address, and her cell phone. No, I'm just kidding, her office phone. So this is the support that the user would go to contact Emily, the town, or give her a call. We have other ways of contacting us, which I'll get into in a minute. So that's that upper left. Users interact to ask questions of the map. The upper right are very, very common navigation tools. Okay, again, every tool turns yellow and has a tooltip. And we can just click on these and go through, and I'll explain what they all do. Some of them are self-explanatory, but our base map widget is divided up into 3 tabs. The trash can here, no public user can delete anything. The worst that can happen is you get frustrated, you restart the app, okay? Zoom in, zoom out, zoom to my location. That's a really big one for if I go in the field and I don't want to search 271 Woodstock Avenue. I just want to get out of my vehicle, walk to the side of the road, click this button, and it zooms right to where I'm standing on the earth. There's a caveat with that. I don't know if you saw it on your mobile device the first time you went, but it says AccessGIS wants to use your location. Did you see that? So what that's doing is that's allowing the application to work with what's called location services on your phone. So if you click deny or no, or whatever, I forget, I think it's allow and deny, this button won't work. If you click allow, then when you click this button, it reads the coordinates in your phone, sends them to the server, zooms you to where you are on the earth. Okay, lower right. Now we're getting into some of the boring stuff, some of the housekeeping, I like to call it, but we have to have it in there. So lower right, notice as I move my mouse around the map, I have coordinates, X and Y coordinates. Notice if I zoom in on the map, as I zoom in on the map, the application starts turning on more data. As I zoom in, it's providing more content for the user that we feel most users want to see when they're zoomed out at this level or zoomed in at this level. And notice that when I move my mouse, I see these coordinates change, but also my scale bar is changing too down here. I don't know if you could see that. And as I zoom out, the scale, so these are interactive. And if I were to click on my coordinates, I have the option here to enter a coordinate. So we have 2 tools that do the exact opposite of each other. If I have a coordinate, and this came to us from our police and firefighting community where they were getting calls about people that were lost out on trails or snow machine trails or whatever, they had approximate coordinates, so they wanted to drop a pin on the map. So you enter the coordinates in here. Let me just put one in here and then enter the coordinate on the map, and boom, that's where I am. Okay. Now we support several different coordinate systems, but this is the use case of I have a coordinate, I want to know where it is on the map. Also, I see a lot of survey plans have that. Engineering drawings, survey plans, they have coordinates in several different coordinate systems. Just since I'm on this thread, the opposite of that is in our measure tools. We can measure an area, a line, and a location. So let's say I don't know the coordinate of this intersection here. but I want to know it, I click on my location tool, I click on the map, and it gives me my X and Y. So it's the opposite. Down here, I know my coordinates, I want to see where it is on the map. Up here, I don't know what this coordinate is, I want to click on the map and see it. You'll regularly see me click this button. This is zoom to full extent. It just brings you right back to the starting location. Kind of brings back to home base, I like to call it. Notice these carets here. I call them carets. Some people call them greater than, less than signs, whatever. As you guys pointed out to me, every square inch is important. Well, in the interface, every square centimeter is important, especially in a mobile device. Anywhere you see one of these, you can open it up or close it. Okay, lower right, a statement about our company. This is an email address that goes to our development team. This is one way to get in touch with CAI, right here. Click this button. Disclaimer, data shown is for planning and information purposes only, blah, blah, blah. Help. Not many people use help, but it's there. Full-blown documentation. So I click the documentation link, and up comes a, look at that fast internet that I have here. Come on. Can you see the counter going? 80, 90, there we go. So this is a manual. Every single tool, every button. It's interactive too. So if I want to know how to run on the butters list, I just click on a butters and it'll bring me right to it. But every button, every tool. Reason why I say people don't use it a whole lot is because we get requests saying, hey, how do I run on the butters list? How do I print them out? It's all in here. Feedback. So this is a form that the application has in it, and it's just a series. I was in East Greenwich last, that's why I said keep that up. But you just go through and answer these questions. Next, do you want to be contacted? How are you using Access? It's a way to engage with our support staff. It's feedback. And the last tool over here, this is the lock. I click that. Here's where I log in if I'm a staff-only user. Okay. I'm not crazy about the internet here, to be full disclosure. I wish I liked to be connected to fiber. That would really, really fast, but I don't get that all the time. So before I get in and start demoing, any questions on the interface? I mean, we built an application for the world to use, so it has to be intuitive, but I think it's good to provide an overview.
You mentioned metadata a moment ago.
Yeah.
So for each layer, is there somewhere that a public user can go to see what the update cycle is or the source kind of questions?
No. We try to document the source. I think I saw one when I was setting up. Was it Open Space maybe? Or it's Connecticut DEP right there. Okay. So we do our best to, well, we try to. I'm not going to say we do our best because we could do better. But if we know where it's coming from, in the layer name, we'll document that. But just since we're on this point, if you go in the property map, anywhere you see a plus sign, think of it, you just open up. Anywhere you see a minus, you fold up, okay? So in the property map, which this is pretty much where all the tax map data is, there is a documented, 2022, so October 1, because we're in Connecticut, 2022. But if I hold my mouse over this little I, it tells me the ownership information was last pushed over 1/25/23. So there is some of that, but not real full-blown metadata. I do want to say this app is constantly, we have a development team, our own folks, constantly rebuilding this. The next generation, if we do have metadata, we're going to have a hyperlink to like the Federal Geographic Data Committee metadata page, but we don't have that for all the layers either. You know, if you came forward and said, Tim, here's my sewers, we'll say, okay, the source is the town, but you may not know when it was collected, what the accuracy is, what the data dictionary, all that stuff. So some of it.
So for the town of Woodstock, if there's no explicit label, is the default that it came from the feed that Emily sent you?
Yeah, I would say, well, there was a little bit, help me out with the timing. Did Ashley provide any of the data?
No, I provided the data.
Okay, so do you want to answer that question?
So the default source is that all of this came from you unless it says otherwise.
I believe it would come from Vision, right?
From Vision.
Yeah. Can I just add to that caveat? Except for if we clearly tell you this came from
Right,
Connecticut
right.
DEP. Yeah, but I agree with you. If it's not documented, the first place I would start is someone at the town.
It would have come from Vision for ownership and then Meet for the previous.
Parcel lines, yeah, for the property lines. But and some of these layers are dynamic drawn layers that come from Vision, like the land use code map. So this is mapping the land use code of every property, and this is coming from her data. So if she were to go in and change 5 parcels from a 300 to a 610, the next time this processor runs, it's automatically going to update. It's dynamically linked. Okay. Good stuff? Data. Data is typically the most expensive part of a GIS too. You know,
Any database.
Yeah,
Data is the most expensive part.
the application, I mean, yeah, it costs money and those developers make good money and, you know, we want to make it as easy as possible, but overall it's the data. Because there's a huge commitment to keep it up to date too.
On average, what would it cost to update a data layer if we chose to do so? I mean, I have not asked you to open any of the data layers, but for example, farm soils. I'd like to see what that looks like, and if locally important farm soils is included in that.
Yeah, I have
And
no idea.
so, I mean, it's a data layer that should be in our GIS, but I currently don't have access to that. I'd like to see it be available to everybody as we're making decisions about.
You're talking about this layer here, the soils?
If you go to soils, there
Yeah.
should be farmland soils.
Yeah, that was from the USDA in 2007.
Do you mind turning it on just so I can see if the pink comes up?
Yeah.
I think you have to zoom in.
No, it should draw. It's my internet.
I don't see any pink on that map, so it has not been updated. How do we get that updated?
So you would have to find a data layer that's updated. I would go to the USDA, good luck, and say, when are you updating that?
I know that when they made that, you see Eastford has a lot of pink. Because when they did the last update, Eastford had already declared that locally important farm soils was going to be important to them. It's never been updated since, and I don't think the USDA is intending to do an update. So that's my question is, how do we get that update?
You find a soil scientist then to update it.
I mean, I know what the layer should have in it. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of querying the data to add it to that map, but I just don't know the process.
Yeah, well, we don't have the qualifications to update that. You'd have to find someone that does. Give me an updated data layer and I'll replace it.
I'll talk to my coworker because I think she has that.
Yeah.
done.
And look, if you say, hey, Tim, we don't want the farmland soils from USDA 2007, we want it from Connecticut DEP or EPA or whatever, fine, no problem. We'll document it to the best that we can and swap the layer. The cost, by the way, for this app has nothing to do with the amount of data. Isn't that strange? Yeah, nothing. Whether we're hosting 13 layers, 31 layers, or 75 layers, still the same price. Hosting data is very, very inexpensive in the big scheme of this. This is all driven by the population of your town, the pricing.
So as she's asking about adding a layer, so that would have to go to Emily?
Yeah, and typically the way that goes is, let's just say you went out and developed a layer of all your outfalls. Just that outfalls and drainage are big right now. So if I say catch basins, outfalls, that's why. And you would say, okay, here's a GIS data layer. Emily, I'd like you to add this to the map. typically what we do is when we update her parcels, we'll add, remove, change symbology, whatever, at no cost. If you say, I can't wait until her maps are done in October, it's $250 per event.
I'm also curious about the open space map and where that data came from.
Okay, this came from the Connecticut Deep, again, from the state repository.
1997.
Yeah.
I know the data.
Okay.
And,
So do you have a more recent one?
I know there is one.
Oh, great.
And
Bring it
was
on.
created by Brian Hall as part of the Mega Mapper project that Last Green Valley paid for, but it's not something that, I see so many GIS products that are great, but I don't know how to get them to be all on one page. He's got the most recent open space data.
Is it a GIS data layer?
Yes, it is.
Can you get a copy of it?
I can ask,
Well, there you go.
because that's what we need to have. because-
Yeah, usually people don't even have a place to go to get that. They say, hey, I have this old map. You want to digitize it? Okay. All right. Ready to get into searching? So there's typically two ways public user searches. One is interacting up here in this orange box. The other one is this tool here by interacting directly with the map. So when I click in here, you'll see these are my history, my browser history of what I searched for. Just ignore that, please. But if I go and search for Wilson, let's say, the app does nothing on the first two keystrokes, one or two keystrokes. It's doing nothing. So on the third keystroke, it sends a request to the database and starts matching whatever I'm typing in here, looking at the street name field, or the address field, typically, it's the street address field. Not just the address number, but it's looking in the street name field as well. The owner name field and the parcel ID field. Okay, all at once. So when I start typing, now I type WIL, now it just made that request and it's looking for anything with WIL in it. So I have 124 matches of WIL in either owner name, street address, or parcel ID. Now, as I type more, now it's looking for Wilson in the owner in those three fields. So, sometimes more is better, sometimes less is better. Just understand what's happening there. As you're typing, you're asking the application to make requests based on whatever you type in that. So sometimes you want to type more, sometimes you want to type less. So this is what's called my search results here. Okay, this is the photo from the CAMA system, from the vision system. This is the owner name, street address, and parcel ID from the CAMA system. My search results can be reported or downloaded to an Excel file or pushed out to a PDF. I guess I'd do that for the Wilson family reunion if I wanted to, but there's all the Wilsons in town, okay? I can generate mailing labels for my search results. I can add, remove by clicking on the map and adding more to my search results, or I can zoom to my search results. It'll just zoom me in to the extent of whatever I have there. I can also sort these by parcel number, by owner, alpha, A to Z, Z to A, and by street address, A to Z, Z to A. Simple, quick, easy. So whatever I'm typing in here, these are my search results. Now, if I find the particular property I want, I click on it, the application zooms to that particular property, selects it in yellow. I'm just going to close my search results, slide my search back in, and now I have what's called an information pop-up. And we've rubber band this. That way when you're working with a lot of data and you're moving around the map, you can still see connected to the parcel that you have selected the information. So again, here I have my building photo. I have various documents and links. This is an example of a really simple integration where we just left AccessGIS, went out to your Vision online database, and returned a web page from Vision with more detailed information about that property. And if I were to use my Identify tool, and let's say I want information about this property, well, now I have that related photo and that Vision record.
When you click on that and get the Vision record, is the Vision record stored in, I'll say, your database, or is it going out back to the town's Vision database and pulling it in?
Yeah, so neither, okay? Neither one of those. So the data that's stored in my system is right here. This is the data that Emily pushed out on, help me, January, whatever, okay? This link goes out to Vision's online database, not the database in her office here. I don't know if you're in the cloud or are you in Vision 8 or 6.5?
6.5.
Okay, so it's having nothing to do with her data here. It's what Vision is hosting out on their website. Emily, how often does this get updated? Is this an annual or quarterly or what?
Sporadic.
Yeah.
I have to push.
Okay. Here's a CAI property record card. Now all this is a simple PDF formatted page of information, the property photo, attributes about the building, attributes about the land and the sale. All it is this information. We just put it in a nice printable formatted card. So if Emily were to run her data processor today, and tomorrow I came in and Ronald DeHart was no longer in there, Tim Fountain was in there, I click on this property record card, Tim Fountain's name will be in here. It's dynamic. And we give this for that user that just wants to print out a simple information card. It's not the official Vision property record card. And I hit my trash can and it clears that selection. Make sense? Pretty simple stuff. Now remember I said there were two ways to, by the way, I'm just using the wheel on my mouse, zooming in and out. I never use these tools over here, zooming in and out. You can do, or now my left mouse button is held down. And I'm just like moving a sheet of paper across my desk. And I let go and the map redraws. There's also a tooltip when I have my Identify tool active. If I just hold it over a property, the app will return parcel ID, owner name, and street address. Just a quick and easy way to say, okay, that's Kathleen's property. Okay, that's Ron's property. Oh yeah, well, Tim's on the corner, right? Oh no, John is. You know, it's just quick and easy way. So the other way users search is using.
Why is that one partial got lines
Thank
on
you.
it?
Well, I don't know. Let's look at the table of contents. Wouldn't it be great if I knew every single property in every single community? I don't know. Let's see. Do you want to do that, or do you want to learn how to search again? Search a different way.
I'll see that right now. I'm curious.
This is really, you've got to get into this, right? Okay, so I see data on the map drawing and I don't know what it is. So I go to the table of contents. First thing I can see is, wow, we've got a lot of addresses and it looks like there are many owners linked to that property. So I'm thinking maybe a condo, maybe. All right, so I open up the property map. You could spend time clicking through all these plus signs, but I'm just going to miscellaneous and I'm looking, it looks to me like that is a conservation easement.
That's cool.
These are a little too close for me. I don't know how well they render Behind this is a gray and this is like a purple. And if Emily calls and said, hey, make that, the line's going the other way, and make that bright green and purple and yellow, we'll change that. So an easement, there's an easement on that property. Okay. Does that make sense? We'll talk a little bit more about layers and table of contents because there's a few more of the key things there. So the other way users search is by clicking this button here. Again, see it turned yellow, draw on the map. So when I have this tool active, I'm gonna hold down my left mouse button and I'm gonna draw a shape. And anywhere that shape intersects, it's gonna select those properties. And let's say, you know what, Tim, I don't want this one in here. Get rid of that. Or no, I want that one back in. Let's add it back in. So now I have my selection here. I see my parcel IDs, 3C11, 3, I can sort by parcel, I can get in and interact. And this is the property I want. I click on it. Now I select it. By the way, every time, I glossed over, but every time you have search results here, run your report, run your mailing labels, add, remove, sort, you can do all that. And that's how you clear, close it, clear it. Sound good? All right. Abutters. So the public runs abutters queries, can run a abutters query on parcel features. That's it. Properties. Some other tools we have, you can buffer any feature. You can buffer a wetland, a river, a lake, a building, anything. Okay, but the public can just buffer. And when I say buffer or a butter, I mean select a subject property, tell the application how far out I want to search to create a list of who's within that area. So here's how you use it. First, you have to start with a selected parcel. Okay. So I want to get, what is a buffer in Woodstock? Is it 300 feet, 200 feet, 100 feet? It depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it depends.
All right, let's just, for the heck of it, let's call it 300.
Maybe 500 for a special permit.
Let's do 500 then. I love it. Thank you. So I have one parcel selected right here. I enter in my distance. I've never met anyone that queries by meters, but it's in there. But make sure you're at feet. And I hit select. So the application there just drew this red line here, 500 feet from the property line, and selected 41 properties within 500 feet. Now, once I have my subject property and my results selected, I can fine-tune that before I get into my reports. By the way, this is a workflow here. I get my subject, I define my abutters, I do my reports. So before I do my reports, I want to go in and examine this a little bit, and I say, darn, you know, that's awful close here, and this guy always complains. He never gets notified about anything. Making that up. I don't know who lives there. And I add them. Add, remove. This is my ace in the hole. I want to add them. I click on them. I want to remove them. So I'm interacting with what my results are going to be by using this add, remove. Once I have that set, I can produce my PDF report. The PDF report is going to identify the subject property, the distance I searched, and all the results. This is my 5-page list of everyone within 500 feet of that property. I can also export that to Excel. Users usually like to do a mail merge or bring that into Excel to work with it in an Office app. Mailing labels So anytime you produce mailing labels, whether it's through abutters or through search results, you're prompted with this window. Has anyone seen this window or have an idea what it is? I'm really curious. This is me getting, I want you to remember this when you look at this, me getting my butt chewed out in a city council meeting that was on TV because the city manager yelled saying that he got sick and tired of seeing half-used label stock in the trash can. I'm being serious. So this is the Avery 5160 template. And let's say the last abutters query I ran, I used this whole first row and these top two, and I want the app to start printing here. So now there's no more half-used label stock in the trash. It's a true story. I won't tell you what community it was, but it traumatized me. So there's a couple, there's stories about every piece of functionality, to be honest with you. That's a true story, and that's why that got built in. So you don't have to, you can just, and you can also use these sliders here to do it. I just click on it. But you can just say, I get a brand new label stock in, and just ignore it, and it'll start in what I call A1.
Getting back to the distance things.
Yeah.
Some people have very large properties. Let's say you want 1,500 feet from a certain building.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pinpoint on the building?
Yeah.
And get the 1,500 feet from that building?
So first you need the building layer.
Right.
All right. So you got to develop a layer of buildings. Lots of different ways you can do that. So I don't believe you have a building layer right now today. So the answer would be no. Okay.
Because we're thinking about that with, say, a cannabis dispensary
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. So there's other ways to do it, but if you had, like if I were to, let me just show you real quick, just to get your mouth watering. Oh, Killingly. Where am I? I'm in Connecticut, right? Lee, CT. So this is a community that, come on, invested in those buildings. And see how I have these building shapes all over? I would select that building as a staff user, because remember earlier I said public can only buffer parcels, but I could run a query off this building 500 feet, 300 feet, 200 feet.
Okay,
But you don't have the building layer to do that,
gotcha.
all right? Data, back to data.
So for instance, you could not put up a picture of the town hall of Woodstock and ask for 500 feet within?
Sure you can. The parcel,
Okay.
not the building feature. This is, you see this brown, this is the actual roof line of the building. You can't buffer that in Woodstock because you don't have it. But the property that we're on, you can buffer that all day long.
Well, when I look at Woodstock, and I look at your GIS, I do see the building.
Okay.
But you haven't logged it in.
Let me see.
I mean, I can see the houses, I can see the building, if I pick a piece of property on the Woodstock site.
Okay. Are you looking at these buildings that are baked in the base map?
Yes.
Okay.
I am seeing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty accurate. Like,
Yeah, so this base map, okay, which we're going to talk about base maps, and is just a picture, all right? So I can't buffer off of image. I can only buffer off a feature, all right? But staff users can create drawing features. I can drop a point on that cannabis manufacturing facility and buffer that. I could draw the shape of the building and buffer that. You know, so there's several ways to skin that cat, but I didn't want to mislead you. And very good eye, these are baked in the base map, but once I go down further, you don't have buildings anymore. You have these address points, which, you know, I can't really tell you if they're on the building, near the building, at the driveway access. It's all over the road. Yeah.
Typically, when there's not a building layer, we would use the imagery and the measurement tool that way, but we can't draw a buffer area, but we can get a distance from
Yeah, so we're jumping around, but this is good. I like what's happening here. So I have a love-hate relationship with Google imagery. It's fast, it's free, but it's usually leaf on. But okay, so here, let's say this is the marijuana plate. I'm just using your example. I can buffer this parcel, these property lines, but I can't buffer the building, okay? But if I logged in as a staff user, I could draw temporarily. Now I can buffer that as a staff user. And if I turn this base map off, I can see that building there. But as soon as I end my browser session or clear, it's gone forever. Okay. Buildings is a very common data layer. There is talk about the state producing one. You know, so. Okay.
And get the town to do it, or would cost X amount of dollars?
Oh, sure, sure. The town could do it a variety of ways. Just two that are common are custom flight, and when they capture that imagery, someone will set that imagery up and capture planimetrics off of it, which are things like fence lines, stone walls, building, edge of pavement, all that. Or someone can go through and heads-up digitize them, bring the aerial imagery underneath, and go through and digitize them. Both ways are going to cost money. Okay. So we're a public user. We've done a 500-foot buffer off of this parcel, and I've run through some reporting, okay? So there are a couple other ways public buffer tools work, okay? And I want to point these out because I find people say, wow, that's really helpful. So I have my one subject property here, but let's say I want to run a 500-foot buffer off this property, and I'm grabbing another subject feature, this property, at once. So I have two subject features. Now I run my query, and I have 500 foot buffer off of those two properties. Make sense? Clear? Last, well, I don't want to say the last because there'll probably be something else that comes up, but in buffers, in buffering butters, I have my subject property. I can put a negative number in here. Now this is going to give me an approximate setback, but please be careful. I hope this is recording. Please be careful. The results are only as accurate as the data in all of this. So I can type in here, let's say minus 30 to get a approximate 30-foot setback, which is this. And it demos a lot better if I throw on a image to get a rough idea of what's going on within 30 feet of that property line. So we talked about single subjects. We talked about multiple subjects. We talked about fine-tuning our add remove. No one's going to forget about the Avery 5160, right? And now we've done negative buffers. Which often I hear, hey Tim, it's 30 feet off of the public roadway and 50 feet off the back, or you just have to do it twice or three, whatever the requirements are. But it does work with negative numbers. Clear. My Esri base map. Back to home base. Okay. Layers. We talked already about data layers, but let's just point out a few things that we haven't talked about. So in the property map, or even in some of these other layers, you may see, these are called group layers, by the way. That's what we call these. So a group, think of them as parent children. So a group has children under it. I'm getting only one. Here we go. I know there. So you may have several layers underneath one group layer, we try to build these as intuitive as possible. So if you have a group of trails, or you have a group of wetlands, or a group of recreation, or a group whatever, they're kind of organized underneath each other. In this case, I have all the property map data, but I have layers here that are turned on. So these check marks are just like light switches. You turn it on, the layer comes on. You turn it off, the layer goes off. But notice I have these that are turned on, they're not drawn on my map, and they're grayed out. That's because we put what's called a scale trap or a threshold on them. So they're only going to start drawing as I zoom in. So I'm just using the wheel on my mouse. You'll notice the content on the map will get richer, and these layers will start drawing. Hopefully you can see over my shoulder and my head. Okay, so now I'm starting to draw lot numbers. I'm drawing miscellaneous if I have any. Let's turn that on. And now I'm drawing my water bodies. But if I want to turn off lot numbers, I just hit the light switch and turn them off. Or if I keep drawing, keep zooming in, now my street names come on. You get the idea, right? October 122, last push 125. Here, let's, we don't have a zoning map, huh? Okay. Let's look at something that, let's go to your soils. I also want to point this out here. If I zoom into a particular area of the map and I have a polygon fill layer on, in other words, these are layers that have a fill in them, because real simply put, it's points, lines, and polygons. That's what we're dealing with. So these are polygons with fills. I have the ability to control the saturation of them through this transparency slider, which really, the use case for that is if I want to see clear underneath. You know, I still want to see it, but I want to control what I see. And while I'm on this, we also can do this with base maps. Okay, that's what these two sliders are. Quick maps, I think is, I question the use of it, but all it does is turn on this layer here. See, right when I chose open space map, it just puts a checkbox here. That's it. Questions on layers, table of contents? Am I going too slow, or is this all right? All right. Okay. Drawing tools. Points. Put my pine trees up here. Lines. These are just what I call dumb cosmetic objects. Here's the parcel we're going to talk about today. And I want to put up some text here. Eat at Joe's. With the spelling error. So I'm making my own map here, right? These are going to come through on my print. These are also going to come through on my share map. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I get to my share map. But if I wanted to print, I'm just going to do a really quick print. I'm not demoing printing for you yet. But the use case here is I want to print a map so I can email it to you to show you the area of interest or where I'm talking about. So those make their way through the print map. Okay? But as I like to call them, dumb cosmetic objects, they have no data behind them, they have no intelligence behind them, no attributes, and they're gone when I close my browser, or they're gone when I hit clear. I don't know what those remnants are there. So that's drawing. Please don't confuse drawing tools. Please don't confuse them with your creating GIS content, because you're not.
When you print, can you print a table, a legend?
Yeah.
Map legend?
Yeah, sure. It's just so I don't forget to point it out. In the print dialog, once you choose a template, you have a checkbox here for a legend.
Okay.
Another interesting story behind that. All right. So draw tools. And by the way, you know, all different colors, all different transparencies, thickness, color, fonts, bold, italics, underline, colors. You know, you can have at it. Measure. 3 ways to measure. We talked about one already, but measure an area. Let's say I'm curious. All right, this parcel 20 here. I'm curious about if I were to do something with this portion of the property, how much is that? So I click and I drag and I click and I drag and I double click to end. So inside this gray shape here, there's little over 2 acres of land, and I have all these different units of measure that I can change it to. Let's say I want to know an approximate distance, say from here, click, drag, click, drag, double click, end. 877 feet, miles, yards, meters, kilometers, just different units of measure. I just click on them. And just as a refresher, I want a coordinate at this intersection, I click on it. I can also copy that to my clipboard, send an email, write a report, paste it in. Okay, base maps. 3 buckets of base maps. Remember I said earlier we're a partner of ESRI, so we have all the base maps here from Esri. So these are just pictures underneath everything. So if I want a light gray canvas base map underneath, I click light gray canvas and it draws. If I want the topo Esri base map, it draws. If I want you guys get the idea, there's the old quadrangle sheets, the USGS quad sheets. I will point out the Esri imagery, again, love-hate relationship with this one too. I don't like it because the resolution's poor, okay? It'll get real pixelated as I get in. But if I hold my mouse over this eye, it gives me the actual date of the photography, where that's uncommon that I can express a date. Usually it's a season, like spring 22 or fall 19, okay? Local is everything that we got either from the state, or if the town were to do a custom flight, it would be stored here. So I want to look at this intersection here. What did it look like in 2019? What did it look like in 2016? So we're fetching these base maps from the source here. So Yukon or Magic, which is the state's repository. And we give you the year. Some of them are leaf on, some are leaf off. This is the land of misfits, I call it. So everything, the OpenStreetMap. This is the Google map, the same Google map that if you were to go to Google on your phone or your tablet, it's right there. That is the Google map. It's Google base map with your parcel data overlaid. Again, I told you about the Google satellite. Again, transparency. And we do have down here at the bottom, kind of hidden, but no base map. If I want no base map at all on. There's no base map. But notice as I zoom in, content will come on. Okay. Areas of interest, bookmarks. I want to go to the town hall. Boom. Click that bookmark, it brings me right to that area. Transfer station, these are just areas, common areas of interest. So the share map that I talked about before, so what this does, this is a function that should be considered in lieu of printing a PDF. So let's say tonight we're going to meet about this particular subdivision here, right? And let's see here, I want to turn on some wetlands. There we go, I got something in there. So instead of emailing you a PDF or printing it, I'm going to say, I'm going to send you a tiny URL. So I click the button, here's a tiny URL, and I copy that to my clipboard. Now I get in and I draft up an email, and I include that tiny URL. You paste that or click on it. It goes, it opens up the app, it zooms to where I'm positioned in the application, and it will turn on whatever data layers I have on. So it's basically going to reproduce the map I had up, the extent I had up, with the layers that I have up. That's the share map. Word of caution, it's a temporary use, because if Emily were to ask us to reorder the layers, rename them, resymbolize them, that share map link is dead. So it's a very short-term temporary use. Identify, we talked about identify. Clear, clear. If you ever do see this bell ringing, which we're not putting a whole lot of new functionality in this version, but if we do, it'll wiggle and turn red. Click on it. This is what we use to notify you of new functionality. And we give you a little slideshow to walk you through how to use it. Zoom in, zoom out. I don't use them, but they work. I use the wheel on my mouse. Zoom to my location. We talked about that. Make sure you allow location services on your phone. Zoom to full extent. This last and previous zoom here, this just remembers where I was, kind of a history. This was from Public Works. They do a lot of measuring along streets and street widths for estimating asphalt and pothole repair. They wanted tools to just bring them back as they're walking down a street, virtually walking. Click and zoom. It's like a marquee. You draw a marquee and it zooms in. I just use the wheel on my mouse. Pan the map. I use this tool and click just like I'm moving, again, the map. Street view, we do have street view integrated in. You click on street view. You have to click on a street. Sometimes I get people clicking back here saying the tool's not working. It's only going to work on a street, and it only works if there's street view data. What I like to point out here is, see this little caret here, this little blue circle here with the caret? We have integrated in as my point of view which way I'm facing. So notice as I'm turning the map, it's turning this, and if I were to walk down the street, that guy moves with me, so I can say, okay, I'm looking at this property right here. Make sense? Integrated in, keeps it grounded to the map. This is Google's product. This is Microsoft's product, Bing Street Side. We fetch both providers' content and give it to you in this window. If you do have oblique imagery, it's served out through what's called Microsoft Bird's Eye. There's no bird's eye here, but that's oblique imagery. That's all the imagery we've been looking at this morning has been top down. Oblique imagery is from an angle. Printing. Okay. It's usually, first time I hit printing, it comes to this map only. I never use map only. Map only is a quick and dirty screenshot, low resolution, really fast. But if I want to build a map, I can build either a portrait or landscape 8.5 by 11 or a portrait or landscape 11 by 17. So in this case, I'm going to choose landscape. This yellow box here gives me the approximate extent of my map. I can set my map scale, 1 inch equals 200 feet. I can type in Tim's map for my title. I can change Woodstock, Connecticut, but we'll keep it. In this example, I don't want a legend, so I'm just going to print the map. The next one, I will show the legend. So what you'll notice here is everything I just filled out, and that's a workflow again. You'll see Tim's map, 1 to 200, 8.5 by 11 landscape map. Again, all PDFs can download in my hard drive, can print them, send them to my printer, can attach them as to an email. Now, if I do want to put a legend on, I'm going to click the legend. Notice the extent changed because I had to make room on my page for the legend. Now I want to say, no, I want that at 1 to 200 and print with a legend. Now, the legend, it's not going to legend every single feature in that long list of table of contents. It's only going to include in the legend the features that are in my map. Another story behind that one. So here I can see the differences between the layers that I have on. Okay, 11 o'clock. Did I say an hour? Oof. Long-winded this morning, I'm sorry. Everything I showed you, you can do at home. You can do here. You can do with power, internet, and a device.
I noticed you on the laptop, I'm on the iPhone.
Yeah.
I don't have to wait for it to draw, I didn't have that, is that because?
I don't know.
I'm counting my things, there's certain things I don't have that.
Do you have a print?
I can print off my phone.
Yeah, that's something that I don't know how many people print from their iPhone, but
Oh, I do a PDF.
yeah, do a PDF and then say, yeah. So some of the functions, depending on what device, and I think if you're on it, it has to do all with screen real estate. But drawing tools are very limited on a mobile device. I know it sounds like a broken record, but that next version of the app is going to include metadata for you, and it's going to include drawing tools for you.
So yeah, because if I went to the iPad.
Yeah, did you try it on an iPad? Yeah, the confidence is low, but you may see them there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Any questions? Remember, the worst thing that can happen is you restart the app. Go to help, use the feedback, use the link about us. The best way, our development team constantly looks at this form here, this feedback form. And as with most software, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if we have 5 people asking for something, it's probably not going to happen. We have 5,000, probably will happen. Seriously, yeah, that's how it kind of raises the top. All right, we good? All right, everybody. I'm not hearing a whole lot. I don't know if that's because none of it made sense, or you're just dying to get out of here and go make maps. Maybe somewhere in between.
No, it's very good, thank you.
Good, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.